Hello, and welcome to our podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a man who completely changed the way millions of people understand consciousness, manifestation, and reality. A man who was born on a small island in the Caribbean and became one of the greatest spiritual teachers of the 20th century. A man who taught kings, millionaires, and everyday people. A man whose teachings are so powerful that even today, decades after his death, they continue to transform lives around the world. His name was Neville Goddard. But who was this man really? Where did he come from? How did he discover the deep secrets he taught? And why are his teachings so relevant today, maybe more than ever? In this episode, we're going to dive deep into the life of Neville Goddard. We're not just going to list facts about him. We're going to understand who he was, what he lived through, how he evolved from a young man searching for answers into a spiritual master who mastered the laws of consciousness. So get ready. Grab your coffee or tea. Get comfortable. Because in the next few minutes, you're going to hear the story of an extraordinary man. And maybe, just maybe, this story will change you too. Let's begin. Neville Lancelot Goddard was born on February 19th, 1905, in St. Michael, Barbados, a small island in the Caribbean. And right here, in this seemingly simple detail, there's something important. Neville didn't come from a famous spiritual center. He wasn't born in India, Tibet, or some mystical place you might expect from a spiritual teacher. He was born on a tropical island. He came from a big family. He was the fourth of 9 children. His father was a merchant, the owner of a small food shop. A normal family, a normal life. Nothing suggested that this boy would become who he became. But from a young age, Neville was different. He was restless, curious, always questioning. He didn't accept ready-made answers. He didn't accept religious dogmas without questioning them. He wanted to understand how things really worked. In 1922, at 17 years old, Neville left Barbados and moved to the United States, first to New York, then later to Los Angeles. And what did he go there to do? What was the dream of that 17-year-old kid? He wanted to be a dancer, an actor, an artist. Yes, you heard that right. Neville Goddard, the man who taught about consciousness, imagination, and the laws of manifestation, began his adult life as a professional dancer. He danced on Broadway, he worked in theater productions, he traveled around the United States performing. And for years, that was his life: arts, performance, theater. But something inside him was restless. Because Neville wasn't just an artist. He was a seeker. He studied metaphysics, read about mysticism, attended lectures on esotericism. Everything he could find about the mysteries of existence, he consumed it. He was looking for something, but he still didn't know exactly what. Until 1931, the year everything changed. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Pay close attention to this. 1931, New York. Neville was 26 years old. He was at a lecture on mysticism when he met a man who would completely change his life. Abdullah, an Ethiopian Jewish rabbi. A mysterious, profound man with extraordinary knowledge of the Kabbalah and the Jewish mystical texts. And something happened in that meeting. Something Neville would never forget. Abdullah accepted him as a student. And for 5 full years, from 1931 to 1936, Neville studied intensely at the feet of this master. Every day, Hebrew, Kabbalah, scriptures, but above all, the laws of consciousness. Abdullah didn't teach in a conventional way. He didn't give formulas. He didn't promise quick results. He completely broke the way his students saw reality. And with Neville, he did exactly that. Abdullah taught Neville something that would change everything. I am is the name of God. And this God is not somewhere far away. It is operating through your consciousness. Neville absorbed these teachings like a sponge. And more than that, he tested everything Abdullah taught. One of the most famous stories is from 1933. Neville was broke during the Great Depression. He desperately wanted to go back to Barbados to see his family, but he had no money for the ticket. He went to Abdullah and said, "Ab, I want to go to Barbados, but I don't have the money." And Abdullah simply said, "You are already in Barbados in consciousness." And he refused to talk about it. Every time Neville tried to discuss how to get the money, Abdullah literally closed the door in his face. Because for Abdullah, the matter was settled. Neville was already in Barbados in consciousness. The rest was just time before it manifested. And it worked. Weeks later, Neville's brother sent him money unexpectedly. Neville got the ticket, and more than that, he was upgraded to first class for free, exactly as Abdullah had said. This experience changed Neville forever because he didn't just hear the teaching, he lived the teaching. He proved to himself that consciousness creates reality. And from that moment on, Neville knew what his purpose was: to teach the world what Abdullah had taught him. So starting in 1938, Neville began giving his first public lectures in New York. And something incredible happened. People were fascinated because Neville wasn't like other spiritual teachers of that time. He didn't speak vaguely or mystically. He was direct, practical, specific. He would say, "Test what I'm saying. Don't believe me. Test it. Imagine something specific. Feel it as real. And see what happens." And people tested it, and it worked. And they came back with extraordinary stories. From 1938 all the way to 1972, for 34 years, Neville lectured constantly. In New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco. He spoke in theaters, halls, anywhere there were people willing to listen. He also wrote books, many books. But I'm going to mention the three most important ones, the ones that became true classics, and the ones you probably should read if you want to deeply understand his work. Feeling is the Secret, which explains how feeling, not thought, is what actually creates reality. The Power of Awareness, which explores how consciousness is the only reality and how everything in the external world is simply consciousness objectified, made physical. And At Your Command, his first book, short but incredibly dense, where he lays the foundation for everything that would come later. Neville also recorded hundreds of audio lectures. Many of these recordings still exist today and are studied by thousands of people around the world. But here's something interesting. Neville never became famous in the conventional sense. He never appeared on mainstream TV. He was never on magazine covers. He never became a spiritual celebrity. Why? Because he didn't want that. He wasn't interested in fame. He was interested in truth, in deep teaching, in truly transforming people. He charged very little, sometimes nothing, for his lectures, because the goal wasn't money. It was sharing the knowledge. And the people who listened to him, they came from everywhere, rich and poor, famous and unknown, business owners, artists, housewives, students. Because Neville's message was universal. Consciousness is God. Imagination creates reality. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are the creator of circumstances. And that message resonated deeply because it was true. And because Neville didn't just talk about it, he lived it. Now let's talk about his teachings. And get ready, because this part is truly impactful. It's deep, and it can completely change the way you see life. So what exactly did Neville teach during those 34 years of lectures and books? I'm going to explain the pillars of his work. The core teachings he repeated over and over in different ways, but always returning to the same fundamental principles. The first teaching, and maybe the most important, is this: consciousness is the only reality. Neville said this constantly, but what does it really mean? It means that everything you experience in the outer world is a projection of your consciousness, not metaphorically, literally. The world is not happening to you. The world is being created by you through your consciousness. If you are conscious of being poor, you experience poverty. If you are conscious of being rich, you experience wealth. Not because you're attracting things from the outside, but because the outer world is your consciousness objectified, made physical. Wow, everyone. These teachings are becoming more and more interesting and profound. I hope you're enjoying them. Let's move on to the second teaching. The second teaching is this: imagination creates reality. Neville had a famous phrase: imagining creates reality. For him, imagination wasn't empty fantasy. It was the creative tool of God operating through you. When you imagine something vividly, when you feel it as if it were real, you're planting a seed in consciousness. And that seed must grow and manifest in the physical world. It's a law. Just like gravity, it's not optional. The third teaching, and you've probably heard this in other videos on the channel, I am is the name of God. This was the central teaching Abdullah passed to Neville, and Neville spent the rest of his life teaching it. I am is not a motivational phrase. It is the name of God within you. It is the pure consciousness of existing. And everything you place after I am rich, I am poor, I am free, I am limited, is a command of creation issued by the divine power that you are. Fourth teaching, feeling is the secret. This, in fact, was the title of one of his books, Feeling is the Secret, because it's not about visualizing coldly. It's not about repeating affirmations mechanically. It's about feeling. Feeling as if what you desire is already real. Feeling the emotion, the satisfaction, the fulfillment. Feeling is what impregnates consciousness. Feeling is what makes the seed germinate. Fifth, live in the end. Neville repeated constantly, live in the end. Don't think of the goal, think from the goal. Don't live as someone who wants something, live as someone who already has it. Because in consciousness, you can live in the end now. You can feel yourself as the person who already fulfilled the desire now. And when you do this consistently, the physical world has no choice but to reorganize itself to reflect that state of consciousness. Sixth teaching, and this is one of the deepest and hardest to accept. Everyone is you pushed out. Neville said, there is no real other. Every person in your life is a manifestation of your own consciousness. If someone is treating you badly, it's because there is something in your consciousness producing that. If someone is loving you, it's because there is something in your consciousness allowing that. This doesn't mean other people don't exist. It means the way they appear in your experience is created by your consciousness. And the seventh teaching, the Bible is psychology. Neville was fascinated by the Bible, but he didn't see it as literal history. He saw it as deep psychology. Every biblical character represented a state of consciousness. Every story represented the process of creation through consciousness. God was not an old man in the sky. God was I am, the consciousness within every person. These teachings may sound simple when I summarize them like this, but their depth is extraordinary. And Neville didn't teach only theory. He taught application. He gave practical exercises. He shared hundreds of real stories of people who applied this and had extraordinary results. Neville Goddard died on October 1st, 1972, at the age of 67 in Los Angeles. But his physical death was not the end. In fact, it was the beginning of something bigger. Because his books kept circulating, his recorded lectures kept being listened to, and word of mouth continued spreading his teachings. Today, more than 50 years after his death, Neville is more studied than ever. Millions of people around the world read his books, listen to his lectures, and apply his teachings. Why? Because what he taught is true, and truth does not die. Truth does not age. Truth remains. And here's the most beautiful part. Neville didn't want followers. He didn't want people to worship him. He wanted people to test what he said and discover for themselves that consciousness creates reality. He wanted each person to recognize, I am is God. Not Neville, not any external guru, but you. The creative power is within you. So if there's one thing you can take from this episode, it's this. You don't need anyone to create your reality. You already have everything you need because you are consciousness. You are the I am, and the I am is God. Neville lived this, he taught this, and he proved this. And now it's up to you to test it, apply it, and discover it for yourself. This was the first episode of our podcast about Neville Goddard. In the next episodes, we're going to go deeper into each one of these teachings. We're going to study his lectures, explore his books, dive deep. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment telling us, did you already know Neville? What impacted you the most in this story? And until the next episode, may you live from the I am that you truly are.